Alright, so today we're going to build a rotating, basically out of everything that I've got for scrap. So I've got a blue barrel, food grade plastic barrel that I picked up from a buddy of mine. I actually got a few of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to build kind of a, my marker doesn't work, well that's better. Alright, so we're going to build like an A-frame kind of deal. It's going to be an X-frame, I guess. So like so. Alright, these are going to be like a lap joint so that when they're together, basically you get this, and you have two of those, and you flip them around, and hopefully you can see that. This marker is garbage. Totally batting 1,000 here. So you get two of these. When you put them together like this, they form a nice flat A-frame. So this only ends up being 1.5 inches thick, the whole thing, because that's a 2x4. Instead of, if you just laid them on top of each other, then you'd have like 3 inches thick. And I think also that it makes this a stronger joint in here. Okay, anyways, it's not like we're trying to send ships to the moon. Then there'll be a piece that runs across the bottom here, like that, just for strength. And then up here we'll have a piece of pipe that's going to go through the barrel. So the barrel is going to sit like this here. See if I can kind of draw that. And then there'll be a shaft that runs all the way through it, like so, that'll sit in this notch up here. So what that's going to look like then is we'll have both of the X-frames like this, and this will be allowed to spin. We'll put about 1.5 inches of space on either end of that, and this will be allowed to rotate this way or this way depending on what you want to do. And this will also have a basically a 12x12 hatch in it. That's where you put your bananas, apples, cardboard, whatever else that it is you want to build your compost out of. Okay, so for those of you that may not have grasped what I was doing there, set my saw up for 30 degrees. I cut my ends, so those will go on the ground. And then I made this. So it's like a little lap joint where these will fit together like that. So that maintains a low profile so that my, I guess my X-frame or my horse doesn't end up being 3 inches wide. It ends up just being 1.5 inches wide. So I'll screw those together, and then I'll measure from here to here, and I'll cut another piece to go there, and then I'll put those together, and then we'll get to making the barrel. So we'll skip ahead to that. I'll show you these when they're screwed together and set up and good to go. Okay, so I forgot to mention that I have a depth stop on my miter saw. So I was able to drop that down to 3/4 of an inch so that I could nibble that out. Now you could do this with a skill saw because all skill saws have depth settings on them as well. You just move the table up until you get your 3/4 of an inch. You could do it on a table saw if you have that ability. If you want to use a good dado cutting set on crappy old lumber, then good for you. Go ahead and do that. I don't want to do that. So I've got these set up. Those are screwed together in the middle there with just some 1.5 inch screws. So I'm going to secure these bottom boards with some 2.5 inch screws, and then that portion of it'll be ready to go. Okay, so we know because of the width of the length of the pipe that these are going to be 41 inches apart. So I've cut 2 boards 41 inches long. I'm going to drill the ends, just a pilot hole in them just to stop them from cracking. And then I'll mount them up here just on top of this cleat. It's not really a cleat, it's more of a foot, I guess. I'll mount it on top of this foot so that we don't have so much contact on the ground, because it's just going to end up rotting anyways. And then we'll mount the barrel up there. We'll drill a hole through the pipe to get it screwed onto the top so that it doesn't move. And then we'll get to cutting the latch, the door for filling, dumping, and that sort of jazz. Alright, so this barrel is 35 inches tall. Sure it is, he says. 35 inches tall. I've got 3 inches of X-frames, A-frames, whatever you want to call them. So that's 38. If I want to leave 1.5 inches on either side of the barrel, on this post is 41. So this piece of pipe here is just a chunk of pipe off of our old trampoline net that blew away in the wind and ended up in the neighbor's tree. So I cut a few sections out of this, so I plan on making a few more of these. But so this is cut to 41 inches. So now what I need to do is I need to find the middle of this barrel, and all I'm going to do is I'll measure my width, which is, let's see here, biggest point is 22.5. So I'm going to go at 11.25, and I'm just going to take my marker and just mark 11.25 in a few spots. And what that should do is it should give me the center of this. Let me get rid of this pipe. This might be easier to do it this way. So if I just go around this barrel, holding it out at 11.25. Now this isn't rocket science, this isn't exact by any means. It actually looks like a kindergartner, didn't it? But anyways, I've got a little hole right there that's in the center of that barrel where this didn't touch. And so now because I know my pipe is 1.25 inches. It's just actually a little bit bigger than 1.25 inches. I'm just going to take a 1 3/8 Forstner bit and just drill a hole in that, and that'll allow that to pass through. Now you can use a hole saw, you can use whatever, you can take and drill multiple holes, you know, mark it out, take and drill multiple holes, take a knife in there and cut that out. You don't have to use anything fancy. But I happen to have the tools, so I'm going to use them. Now I know you woodworkers are going to freak out saying, oh my god, that's not the way you use a Forstner bit. Yeah, I know. These are cheap ones I bought at a garage sale. So don't worry about that. Alright, so now I've got a hole in the middle of my barrel that my pipe will pass through. And so I'll do one on the other side. And then that'll basically allow me to mount that up in my frames. And then we'll get the cut in the hole. Alright, so there's our frame. Buttoned up with the 2 cross braces. Frames in, or the barrel's in there. Now, one thing I forgot to mention was I've got this stuffed all the way over to one side. And I need to measure, which it should work out to about 3.5 inches or something like that. Okay, so it looks like it's just under 4. So 100 mil. So I need to put something on here to stop the barrel from going back and forth. And the reason we want that space in there is we want an equal space on both sides to have for room for just for hands and things like that, because you're going to spin this you know, every couple days or whatever, or every time you put some stuff in it. So I've got a chunk of just conduit, PVC, Ipex, whatever, conduit. That's the right size to fit over top of that. It's just some crap that we had when we renovated our house that I just never threw it away. Good for me for never throwing anything out. So I'm going to cut a couple pieces of that and slide those over there, and then we'll drill that and get that mounted more permanently. Okay, so we got those little, I don't know, washers, thrust washers, one on either side, just like that. Now that just, all that does is it stops the barrel from, as you roll in it, just sliding back and forth, because it catches on the edge of the board under here. So I'm going to drill a hole in here and run a screw through it, both sides, and then we'll finally get to marking and cutting a hole. Okay, so we're going to cut a hole in here. I'm going to use the seam of the barrel for a straight line, because that seems like a smart thing to do. And then I'm going to measure down about 10 inches, I guess. I figured it was going to be 12 by 12, but that's getting to be pretty big. So I'm going to go 10 inches down from that line. And I'm going to keep these as part of the barrel, or the lid as well. So there's 2 ribs there. I don't know if you can see them or not, but we're going to keep those as part of the lid, just for maybe a little bit of strength. I don't know if it adds anything or not, but that's what I'm going to say it does, and we'll go from there. So just measure down here 10 inches. It's not exact. This isn't fine woodworking or plastic working, whatever you want to call it. We'll trace a little bit of darkness on that seam, and then we'll join those together with a straight edge. Just grab my little hook rule here, and we'll join these together And then I'll just take my jigsaw and cut that out. Alright, now with any luck, I will fall out of there. Perfect. See, we still have a little water in there from the rain, but that's okay. Alright, so just take and clean this up. Just the little burrs and stuff. Nothing fancy. Jackknife. Here's where all the bladesmiths go. Oh my god! You guys will be fine, I promise. On there. And we're almost finished. Alright, so for the hinge and latch portion of this, we're going to use an old drill box. We're going to take the hinge back out of the back of the box, and then we're also going to cut one of these off. We'll cut them both off, then we can discard of this into the trash, save that for another project. Alright, so I cut these off pretty big. I'll just take them over and clean them up at the vise. Alright, so to finish up the rest of this project, we're going to need our door that we just cut out. Obviously. We're going to need the hinge that we took out of the drill box. We're going to need the latch pieces that we took out of the drill box, or whatever box it was. And we're going to use a wide head aluminum rivet. These are 3/16. We call these skidoo rivets. So we'll need those. Now I generally have a little aluminum washers to go on those, but I don't have any of those right now. So I just really upped the cost of this. And since Canada has decided to render its pennies useless, I have a bunch of pennies. I just took and drilled some holes in them, and those will become my washers. So yeah, thanks for that. Anyways, that's what we'll do. So I'll try and give you some room and maybe spin this a little bit so that you can see what I'm doing. And we'll rivet this on here. I'm going to take my knife and clean up this hole again, because I really like freaking out the bladesmiths. So I'm just going to drill 4 holes in here, and then when we mount the lid we'll drill 4 holes in here and screw them on. Okay, so now that the first part of the hinge is on there, we're going to take our poorly cut door and we're going to line it up in here. Now, we're not going to butt it right up against because we need to gain a little so that it overlaps here about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch. So we're going to get it lined up like that. Alright, so you can see that's how that lid works. So you got good opening to dump your garbage in. It sits flat against here so it's sturdy. It's plastic so it's not going to rust out. Now you just have to take and line this up. I'm going to get it on there the right way. So now we just take and line this up, drill a couple rivets in each piece, and latch it on there, and that'll keep it closed so that you can spin it and it won't fall open on you and dump all your crap on the floor. Ground. I meant to do those side by side, not up and down, so I drilled an extra hole, but we'll call that an air hole. If I zoom in here, you'll be able to see the backing of the pennies. Normally that would be an aluminum washer, but like I said, I didn't have the stuff. So now this will just be a matter of lining this up. And make and there you have it. Latched, ready to go. So when you want to use it, open your latch, flip it open, dump your stuff in there. Done with it, latch it up, it ain't going anywhere. And then you can rotate this around as your compost goes in there, and it'll help keep it stirred. Alright guys, well thanks for watching. Hopefully I built a few of these. They work really good. Sold a few to some people in town too, so if you think that that's something that you want to get out and try, then by all means go and do it. If you have any questions, ask them down in the comments, and I try and get back to everybody as quickly as I can as I see the comments coming in. I mean, we've got nothing but time right now, so we might as well make the best of it. Anyhow, I appreciate you watching. I hope everybody stays safe. Look after your neighbors. God bless, and we'll see you for the next one.